Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is Steven, and today we're going to talk about how to write a resume, specifically if you are applying for an electrician apprenticeship program. All right, you guys. Well, hey, if you're new to my channel, thank you so much for checking this out. The entire purpose of this channel is actually to be a resource for you if you are interested in pursuing this career and becoming an electrician. So if you want to become an electrician and you want to know exactly the steps that you need to take to become one, then you're definitely in the right place. So this video today is actually my second video in a new playlist of videos that I've been working on, which is basically how to create the documents that you need when you apply to become an electrician. So the documents that I'm covering in this playlist of videos is how to create a cover letter, how to create a resume, and then how to create a really great portfolio for when you go and apply to become an electrician. So of course in today's video, like you already know, we're going to be talking about how to create a resume for an electrician apprenticeship. So let's get into this. Now, there's really no right or wrong way to write a resume, and that's because it's going to be something that is specific to you, your experiences, your accomplishments, and then of course specific to whatever job you are applying for, which in this case I think it's safe to assume you're applying to become an electrician. Now, that being said, I still wanted to make this video to help give you some pointers and guidance so that way you can make the best possible resume that you can. Now, just like in my last video, how I showed you guys the cover letter that I actually wrote when I applied for the apprenticeship program here in Portland, Oregon with IBEW Local 48, in this video, I also want to show you guys the actual resume that I wrote so that way you guys can look at it and kind of use it as an example. Now, to be completely honest, if I were to rewrite my resume today, I think that I could probably do a better job than I did, 4 years ago when I applied for this apprenticeship program. But I still want to go ahead and show you guys anyways because I think that you'll find it to be, somewhat useful, hopefully. Now, just like you did in your cover letter, the first thing that you want to put at the top of your resume is going to be your first and last name, your address, your email address, and then your phone number. Now, the second thing you want to put on your resume after putting your name and contact information is going to be your objective. Now, with your objective, you're basically going to be stating what your goal is, which in this case is obviously to get into the electrician apprenticeship, and then basically what you have to bring to the table based off of your previous experiences or lack thereof. It's really important that in your objective, you're not just copying something that you wrote in your cover letter, because like I talked about in that video, your cover letter is basically meant to be in addition to your resume that pretty much just complements it. So here's what I wrote for my objective. With nearly 2 years of experience as a store manager for Spring Mobile AT&T and years of leadership experience in other roles, my objective is to take the skill sets that I've learned and invest them in NECA IBEW Local 48 as an apprentice for the NIETC Inside Electrician Apprenticeship program. Honesty, quality of work, training, and customer service are core values that I will stand behind as I venture into this new trade as a clean slate, forming habits and behaviors the correct way from the beginning. Did I get the job yet? So there's a couple things that I want to point out about my objective, and the first thing is just basically how short it was. With an objective, you really want to keep it clear and concise and try to keep it to somewhere around 2 sentences. The second thing I want to point out is basically how I used the fact that I really didn't have any trade-related experience as a good thing. So I positioned that as, hey, here I am, I'm a clean slate, and I can form new habits and behaviors the correct way from the beginning. And if you find yourself in the same place, maybe you don't have a lot of trade-related experience going into the apprenticeship program, I would recommend maybe saying something similar on your resume and or a cover letter. Another section that I would recommend putting in your resume, even though it doesn't necessarily have to be after your objective, is going to be your skills. And I would recommend trying to list skills that are relevant to the trade. Now, I want to go ahead and read you guys the skills that I listed in my resume, even though I think that I could have probably done a better job listing skills that are a little bit more relevant to the trade. But anyways, here they are. Management and leadership experience, exceptional customer service skills, time management, quickly learning and retaining information. So that's what I put. When I was writing out my skills, I was really just trying to think of things that I knew that I was really good at from my previous jobs that I could also take with me and use in my career as an electrician. But I probably could have also included things like maybe saying that I'm mechanically inclined, good with power tools, things like that. Now, the next section that I would definitely include in your resume is your previous work experience. Now, you may be watching this right now and you're in high school and you're planning on applying for the apprenticeship right after you graduate without any previous work experience. So in a little bit, I'm going to talk about things that you can add to your resume that will help you stand out and make you look like a good applicant, even if you don't have any previous work experience. But like I said, we'll get to that in a little bit. Now, in this experience section, basically you're going to want to list where you worked, what your position was, how long you worked there, and then what your responsibilities were and what major accomplishments you had while you were working there. Now, one thing that I will say is a lot of times when somebody is reading your resume, they're going to care more about what your accomplishments were than what your actual responsibilities were at your previous job. But if you can at least list some relevant responsibilities that you had at your previous job that are still relevant to being an electrician, then I think that's going to be a really good thing to mention. So I'm going to go ahead and read to you guys what I wrote down from my experience in my resume. Now, I'm only going to read what I wrote down for when I worked at AT&T, but if you want to just pause the video, then you can see what I wrote down for the other jobs that I had as well. So, experience. Store manager, AT&T authorized retailer, Spring Mobile. Gresham, Oregon, from March 2014 to present. Coaching, training, and leading team by example. Hiring, firing, and issuing corrective discipline when needed, creating store schedule, ordering inventory, supplies, and hosting store meetings, handling customer escalations, consistently maintaining a customer experience 3-month average score of above 80% on a company goal of 70%, achieving a near perfect store scorecard score of 99.89% in June of 2016, setting the record for the highest store scorecard ever in our district. And you can see that the way that I formatted that was first by listing my responsibilities in the top section, and then the last 2 bullet points I listed basically major accomplishments that I had when I was a store manager for AT&T. So you guys can definitely use that format. I think that that works pretty well. Now, seeing what I put down on my resume for my experience, you might be thinking to yourself, well, how are any of those things really relevant to getting into the apprenticeship and becoming an electrician? And what I would say is that being a good leader is relevant to pretty much any job. And so I wanted to really list the responsibilities that I had as a store manager, handling customer escalations, scheduling, inventory, conducting store meetings, all that kind of stuff, because that will show that I am capable basically of taking care of myself, and that will also help whoever's interviewing me and reading my resume to kind of envision me in leadership roles as an electrician. So maybe becoming a foreman, general foreman, project manager, something like that. And that's kind of what I had in mind when I was listing these things. And then the other thing that I wanted to make sure that I listed was the customer service scores that I got. And that's because, believe it or not, as an electrician, you're still going to be working with customers, right? Everything that we do, all the jobs that we get are from customers. And so if we are great with customers, if we give a good customer experience, then whoever is hiring us is going to know that we're going to represent their company well and make them look good. So that's kind of what I had in mind with those. Now, the last section that I put on my resume was education. Now, you can either keep the section short and sweet, or you can really spend some time on it and use it to highlight any major academic achievements that you have. Because after all, a big portion of the apprenticeship is being a student. If you finished high school with an outstanding GPA, then maybe that's something that you want to include. If you graduated with honors, maybe you want to include that. Or even if you took any trade-related classes in high school or college, whether it be electrical theory, anything about the trades, anything at all about construction, engineering, auto shop, anything like that, that's definitely something that you can include in this section as well. You may be in a situation where maybe for whatever reason you ended up dropping out of high school, but later on you got your GED. So really, if you don't want to include that in your resume, you don't have to. You can really just skip over the section completely if you want, but it is something that may come up in your interview, so just be prepared to talk about that at least at some point. Now, I was always a great student and I got good grades, but when I was writing this section, I really just wanted to keep it short and sweet. So here's what I wrote for my education section. High school diploma, June of 2013. Graduated from Gresham High School in Gresham, Oregon. And then I listed the community college that I went to for about a year, which I said completed most of my associate's degree, Mount Hood Community College in Gresham, Oregon. So that's all I put. All right, so like I said before, some of you guys just might not have very much work experience to list in your resume. So like I said, there's definitely other things that you can put in place of that on your resume. And even if you do have a lot of previous work experience, you may still want to consider including some of these additional sections, especially if they're really going to make you stand out. So some of the additional sections that you can add to your resume are going to be things like extracurricular activities, academic achievements, any major accomplishments or awards that you've received, any additional languages that you speak, technical or trade-related skills, any trade-related certifications that you have, or any volunteer work that you've done. Any of those are going to be great things to add to your resume, especially if they make you stand out and really highlight who you are and what you've accomplished. If you do have any trade-related certifications, then I would definitely put those in your resume, even if you've already listed a lot of previous work experience, because that's just really going to make you stand out. You know, if you've done like OSHA safety training, if you've been lift trained and certified, things like that are going to show that you basically already know what you're doing and that you're going to be a good fit for the apprenticeship. So definitely consider adding that section. Now, after investing all this time into this video, and if you saw my cover letter video, this is probably something that you're not going to want to hear, but it's definitely something that you need to keep in mind. So if you are applying for the apprenticeship program with the IBEW, you know, on the union side, well, then you have to keep in mind that there's thousands of people that apply for this apprenticeship every single year. And so while you really want to put in the effort and do a really good job with your cover letter and your resume and your portfolio, you got to keep in mind that they're not going to be able to spend a ton of time reading over your resume. And so you're really going to want to do your absolute best to list all of the things that are going to make you stand out and that will really highlight you as a person while keeping it concise and not writing a whole novel. Now, for that reason, just like with your cover letter, I would also recommend keeping your resume to 1 page in length. Now, what I will say though is if there's a lot of things that you think will really make you stand out and highlight who you are and increase your chances of getting into the apprenticeship program, but you can't keep it down to 1 page, I wouldn't stress it too much. Just the point that I'm trying to make is you don't want to be excessive and have pages and pages and pages. Probably the shorter the better. And like I said in my cover letter video, you want to keep everything the same in your resume as far as the margins, the font, and the letter sizes go. Basically, you want them to look like they belong together, because they do. Now, a quick side note that I think is really worth mentioning in this video is if you just feel really underqualified to get into this apprenticeship, if you feel like you have absolutely no relevant experience and you want to somehow increase your chances before you apply or get into this, then I would really recommend looking into becoming a material handler. Now, I actually have a video out about what a material handler is, how to become one, how much they pay, all of that. So I'm not going to talk too much about that in this video, but if you want to check that out, I'm going to link that up in the description. So make sure to check that video out. But basically just know, yes, it will get you plenty of relevant experience and exposure to the trade, and it is really drastically going to increase your chances of getting into the apprenticeship. It's not an absolute guaranteed in, but it's pretty close to it. So definitely look into becoming a material handler if you want more experience. All right, you guys, well, I think that is it. If you found this video to be useful and you enjoyed it, then make sure to hit the like button. That way the YouTube algorithm will know to recommend this video to more people. And like I said, this video is part 2 in my playlist. So if you want to see part 3, which is how to create a portfolio for an electrician apprenticeship, make sure that you're subscribed to my channel and that the notifications are turned on so you'll be notified as soon as I post that video. And yeah, if you want to also keep up with me in my day-to-day life as a sustaining electrician at a hospital, then you can also make sure to follow my Instagram page, which I'm going to put a link to up in the description. So I think that is it. Thank you guys so much. Have a good one.